This is a book review of Oscar Wilde's The Uncensored Picture of Dorian Gray, and the book was written in 1891. What I'm going to do, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it already and want to know. I'm going to give my just overall impression and whether or not I like the book first. And then, if you haven't read the book, you can just stop there and don't listen to the rest. But if you have read the book and you're interested in maybe hearing a summary, and also when I was thinking about making this video, I thought of something very interesting, and I'd like to share that as well. It's a pretty cool thought about what was going on with Dorian. So I'll get to that as well, but that'll be the order of this video. So to start off, the book, it's my first time reading Oscar Wilde. I picked it up because I like kind of controversial books, and I was it's the uncensored picture. Normally, it's just called the Picture of Dorian Gray, and it's called the Uncensored Picture of Dorian Gray. This version is at least because it is exactly how Oscar Wilde wrote it originally. And when he did write it in 1891 in England, it was heavily edited. Certain lines were crossed out because they basically they didn't like how kind of homosexual leaning it was, and they liked the story, but they just like crossed out certain things. And the way that that's described in the introduction, I guess with my modern mind, I had thought that there was going to be like some homosexual scenes or something in it, but like it was hardly it wasn't homoerotic whatsoever. It was just like the painter kind of had a crush on the Dorian Gray guy who he painted. It was really not much at all, but I guess in at that time it was a big deal, and so they crossed out and they censored it. But anyway, it is very well written. I love the language that Wilde uses. It's an interesting story. It comes with a little twist. I've been reading so much nonfiction lately that when when something happens in the book that is kind of like wouldn't happen in reality, it really surprised me because I forgot that books can do that because I've been reading so much nonfiction, or even the fiction I have been reading has been very realistic fiction. So that was a nice surprise. I got like, oh wow, like that's really happening, eh? Okay, and so that was interesting, and yeah, it's a great story and it has some good themes. The themes are kind of on uh, um, the soul and your physical appearance and vanity, right? And what it means to be young and youthful, and is that how important is that? How important is your soul and your spiritual self, and your conscience, right? And Dorian has to kind of deal with that. So that's my overall review. And if you're wondering about whether or not I would recommend it, I'd absolutely recommend it. I think it's a great book and it's a good read. So now I'm going to get into what happens in the book, and there will be spoilers. So there are three gentlemen. They're kind of like the only real characters in the book. There's the painter, Basil Hallward, and he's a gentleman. And then there is Lord Henry, who Basil is best friends with. And then there is the young Dorian Gray, this exceptionally handsome young gentleman. And everybody loves the way he looks. He just has that young, boyish energy. And Basil, as a painter, like he meets him because he has to meet him. He's quite obsessed with him. He might even be homosexual himself and have a crush on Dorian, but he wants to paint him, and he's an exceptional painter, and he does great work. And so Dorian Gray, this handsome gentleman, has been kind of posing for Basil and doing his paintings, and Basil does not want Dorian to meet Lord Henry because he believes Lord Henry will be a bad influence on him. Spoiler, Lord Henry was a bad influence on him, and he really kind of changed Dorian, made him kind of less innocent in a way, more aware though too. So, it's a bit of pros and cons to it. But Dorian kind of becomes aware of how important his youth and good looks are, and how great it is for him to be beautiful. He's never really been aware of it. Um, but then he starts to kind of, be a little bit too conscious of it and value it too much, because Basil does this, his best work ever. It's this amazing portrait of Dorian, and it just looks beautiful. And then Dorian, he looks at it, and because he's been thinking about his youth and his beauty, he starts getting angry and breaking down and upset because he's looking at this painting and he thinks how unfair it is that he is going to get old and ugly, but this painting is going to look beautiful forever. And he's actually jealous of this painting that Basil has made of him. And he says, I wish that it could be the opposite. I wish that this painting would grow old and decrepit, and I could stay forever young and beautiful like the painting. And it's a bit of a careful what you wish for thing, because that is exactly what happens. Dorian, he makes some mistakes and he does things that are kind of regretful and shameful. And he kind of, it doesn't disturb him as much as he thought he would. And then he looks at the painting, and the painting has changed. The painting kind of has signs of sin on it. Its smile is a little crooked or something. I forget exactly what happens, but there's something different with the painting. The painting has a guilty conscience on it. The painting is now Dorian's soul, and anything that he does that is kind of sinful, or whatever he does in terms of morals, is reflected upon the painting. And he's very disturbed by this, of course, at first. But then he's in a bit of a pickle. Like, does he want to get rid of the painting and change things back to how they were? That would be kind of foolish, because what a gift he's been given. He can now live, forever young and always look beautiful no matter what he does. And there's the theme in the book is it's very much that sin is what causes aging, and that beauty is like an actual representation of how pure and innocent you are. And the more that you sin, the worse you kind of look, and the worse you age. But Dorian is kind of, at odds with this, and he doesn't know what to do. But basically, he's too tempted, and he keeps the painting and he hides it away up in his attic. And he hides it away so that nobody can ever see it. Basil comes, he wants to look at it. He says, no, I won't let you see it. And he hides it away. And over the years, Dorian does more and more gross things. He lets his morals completely go by the wayside, and he does a bunch of regretful, shameful things. But Dorian is quite unfazed by all of it. He doesn't really feel the change. He once in a while goes up to the attic and looks at the painting and looks at how gross it is, and he sees the damage that he's done to his soul, and his soul is now the painting. And he's filled with this mix of emotions of like fear and disgust with it. But whenever he does something terrible, he's quite unfazed by it. And I won't go on describing more about what happens in the book now. I think I can kind of talk about, I've given enough background to talk about what my take on it is I think, and you can let me know if you agree with this or not in the comments, and I don't know if anybody else has this take or not, but when he wished for the picture to age and for things to be the opposite, I believe that not only did the picture take on the aging part of him and become his soul, but I believe that Dorian is now merely a painting. He is just a piece of artwork. He is somebody who has stifled his development, and he's not going to get any better. He is somebody who is completely stagnated. He is not lively. He doesn't change. He's not dynamic. The actual picture up in his attic, that changes over time, right? Dorian is quite unfazed by anything that he does. I believe he's become much more superficial, and I believe that's because he is like the painting. He is now just a piece of artwork. There's nothing to him. There's no real There's nothing like human about him anymore. And perhaps I need to reread it again, but I think that that is quite accurate. I don't think he demonstrates much, you know, conscientiousness. He is rather superficial, and he doesn't seem to really care that, you know, people around him aren't liking him as much, even though he does still look incredibly handsome. And so the picture, the painting, is now taking on all of his soul, his human qualities, and it's changing over time. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I think it's a great story. It's very well written. It's a classic. A lot of people like it, so I would highly recommend it. And let me know if you agree with that take. Did did not only the painting take on Dorian's aging, but did Dorian then become like a painting in that he was stagnant and he stopped developing and he was just superficial, really? There's nothing below the surface. Okay. Thanks for watching.